Welcome back to another episode of NFL News on the Boomer Bust channel. I'm your host Terry, and today we got a lot to talk about. I'm busy. I'm super busy. I mean, more busy than I was before, actually. But I want to take some time. I've been meaning to talk about some of the news going on. So instead of hitting it one by one, I'm just gonna kind of dump all these discussions together, or lump all these discussions together, I should say. But let's get into it first. The running back situation. So I talked about this previously. We had more come out since then, and it's an interesting conversation that I continue to come back to because obviously, like most times, the sports media has some narratives going on that aren't completely true or relevant to the situation. But you've had a lot of former front office people weigh in. Obviously, you got Jim Irsay as an owner weighing in and all these different things. The first thing I want to say is that Saquon Barkley set the market back. Since I talked about this whole discussion, Saquon ended up signing a deal and for a 1 year contract, not the franchise tag. So a rarely used rule. He's able to sign a 1 year contract. Obviously, you can't do the long term contract because it's past the deadline. So instead of doing a franchise tag, he signs this 1 year contract. And for the life of me, I don't understand. The only thing I know is that Saquon loves football and he loves his team and wants to be there for the team. We see this happen a lot. I mean, some guys don't care about the team, but a lot of times you get in these tough situations with good character guys. They don't want to let the team down, the fans down, but they don't care about the owner and the front office. And they want to say, screw you. And it says, hey, this is not against you fans. This is not against you teammates. This is against them. But the front office knows that they're that type of person and they play that against them. And they know they want to get back on the field. And so that's a true thing that I know. But that's the only thing that I could even think of remotely of why he would do this. Because number one, I don't know if it's particular order, but one thing is he took less money than the franchise tag. That's already an issue. So he took 2 million. He got 2 million guaranteed. Now I don't even think that was a signing bonus from what I read. So it might be guaranteed in a different way. And if you've been listening to me for a while, you heard me break down contracts before. If you don't know that, go look back at my Patrick Mahomes breakdown or just look some stuff up. Because sign-in bonus is the one that I won't say it's the only one that matters, but that's the most important because you literally get that money just for signing. When you say you got 50 million guaranteed, that could be 2 million workout bonus guaranteed. That could be a 3 million roster bonus. It's a lot of ways they can do guaranteed money that doesn't necessarily make it guaranteed. The only thing that it really says is that you don't have to play for this necessarily. It's something else, like a workout, like a roster, whatever it might be, or incentives is playing for it, but that's different. So you got 2 million guaranteed somewhat, and I'm not sure, but I'm pretty sure the franchise tag is fully guaranteed. But either way, obviously he didn't want to be on the franchise tag. But this is way worse. So you got less money. You did get something guaranteed up front. But at the same time, you have another year where they can use the franchise tag because this negates the first franchise tag. So they still have 2 more years after this they can franchise tag you. And then on top of that, he has an incentive-laden contract, which I do think is one of the routes that's a solution for running backs. But the incentives and the numbers that he have is crazy. It's less than $1 million total. And he has to do some crazy stuff. I don't have it right in front of me, but you're talking about a high number of rushing yards. You're talking about the team making the playoffs. You're talking about all these things just to get less than $1 million. And so that's terrible. I mean, when you look at any player, whether it be a J.J. Watt going to the Cardinals or not Chandler Jones. He wasn't old when he went to the Cardinals, but players like that where you're like, okay, we don't know. We don't know if you over the hill yet. They'll give you an incentive laden contract. But usually those incentives come with big paydays. It's not, 200,000 if you get 15 sacks. No, like that's usually multi-million dollars for each incentive. Each incentive. You hear it all the time. If this person gets another catch, that's another $3 million. Or this person scores another touchdown, they get another $5 million. Like those incentives, the ones he has in his contract are terrible. And so all that together, he completely set the market back. Now I'm talking over the table. Now under the table, if there's a hush-hush agreement that they can't tag him again, and I guess you got to trust that they'll honor it, then okay, to give up a little money, to get a little guaranteed money, terrible incentives, but you won't get tagged. You could walk after this year or get a long-term deal. That might be worth it to him. But obviously we won't know if that was the case. So again, above board, above the table, it just looks terrible. It sets the market back because number one, you fold it. Even if they gave you, I won't say something crazy, but let's say they said, hey, instead of the franchise tag, let's sign a 1 year, $14 million deal, $2 million guarantees. You still owe it to the rest of the cause to not sign that because it's still not what you're looking for in terms of security. And it's not what you're looking for in terms of guaranteed money. And so it might be a great deal compared to what he signed, but you have to say no because you're one of the few with the big leverage. Derrick Henry has big leverage, but he already got a big contract. Nick Chubb probably has good leverage, but he already got a big contract. McCaffrey, not so much because he's injured. But Saquon was their entire offense. And so you have the most leverage out of anybody of the group. But he folded. And so that hurts because it doesn't matter what you think of your deal. You set a precedence. And so that's something that the other teams and owners can look back and point to when running backs are trying to play hardball, Josh Jacobs, anybody. And they say, look what Saquon signed for. You're not better than Saquon. And so it's the opposite but similar discussion we have with quarterbacks in terms of you have to take this, or any player, you got to take this because it's going to hurt other people's negotiation. So anyway, there's that. It's in a tough spot. So Saquon made a big mistake in my opinion. Jonathan Taylor situation, I'm not really going to dive into that. I think, it's just another symptom of the bigger issue. And in terms of, again, people keep saying, well, I don't know what the solution is. The solution is easy. I don't know. Well, it only happens in football, really, because with basketball, especially, they know they know they can get stuff done and people don't limit their ideas. Because they know that whatever is the rule of the four corners, whatever is in between that four corners of paper can go. But when you have a union like the NFLPA that is so bad at their job and have never really done the favors to the players, and you have players that don't collectivize together, it's easy to be like, well, I have no idea what we can do. But in actuality, you can do a lot. You can do an absolute lot. I said before, you could restructure the rookie contracts for running backs. You could restructure the franchise tags just for running backs. There is one or two very prominent former personnel or front office people. Their push in their mind is raise the salary cap. You as players need to put all this other stuff aside and focus on having them raise the salary cap because that's going to help everybody. Now, do I believe that's true? No, I do not. Because let's say you make the salary. First of all, the salary cap has increased over the years. I forgot how much money has increased in the last 5 years, but it's a significant amount. And running backs are making around the same money average as they were before. And we're talking about top running backs. So just because they got more money doesn't mean that everybody got more money. It meant quarterbacks got more money. Edge rushers got more money. Tackles might be getting a little more money. It does not mean that everybody gets more money. So I don't necessarily believe increasing the pot means greater share for everybody. Especially with the QB fascination and arms race, I don't think that's necessarily the answer, but that's one of the solutions people put out there. There's so many things that you can do. The solution's out there, but the NFLPA has to do it. And I'll say this, I tweeted, but I'll put it here officially on podcast. If it was me, and again, I'm biased because I've dealt with organization, whatever you want to call it, governance, all those different things, union, all that. I've dealt with some of that stuff, and I'm a bully about it. So for me, if it was me, I would say, again, the players have to look at this as a player issue and not a running back issue. And if they would put together their stuff, exactly one thing would make a huge difference. A week 1 first quarter walkout. If week 1, first of all, you got the first game with the Chiefs. But if they did it and then subsequently everybody else did it on Sunday, where first quarter, all the players together walk back out or walk out and back into the tunnel, into the locker room, and they come out in the second quarter, that would absolutely send a message to the owners, because the owners are right. It's a CBA. It was a 10-year deal. I forgot how much more time. I think like 6 or 7 years. And so they don't have to do anything unless they are forced to. It's the same thing like with the rules and anything else the league does. If the owners feel strong enough, they will call an emergency meeting to make amendments. And they can do the same thing here if the players force their hand. So, but it takes a lot of people to stand together to do that. But that's what I'll be focusing on. All right. Anyway, moving on from that, we got Aaron Rodgers. Aaron Rodgers gave back $35 million. There was so much discussion and shock and all that. Now, look, shock I could get. It's $35 million. We've never seen somebody really voluntarily do a whole pay cut like that, or whatever you want to call it. The thing is, what's lost in it, again, is the guaranteed money. Here, the most simple thing I can say is NFL contracts aren't guaranteed. I would hope most people know that. That means no matter what you have on paper, you get cut, they're not giving you that money. They only giving you what is guaranteed through certain mechanisms. And so while he did give back $35 million, roughly $35 million in salary, he did gain more guaranteed money over the next 2 years. And so that's more valuable. It's more like, it's kind of like one bird in the hand, 2 in the bush. So I've always tell you, when it comes to contracts, everybody reports average annual salary. It's the dumbest thing ever. That does not matter. It really does not matter. I mean, obviously, the higher the number, probably the bigger the contract, but that doesn't matter because each year can look different. Number one, you're talking about an average. Each year could look different. And number two, first of all, if I had the biggest average salary with no guaranteed money, so what? That contract doesn't mean anything because I get hurt, get cut, and never see none of that money. The guarantees are always the biggest thing. So Aaron Rodgers got more guaranteed money. So he made a move that was smart for him. Like, let's not act like he gave straight up charity. He made a move that was smart for him. But he did give back to the team. And there was all types of speculation, all that. And if you listen to me, even as a Bears fan, you know I don't have a problem with Aaron Rodgers. Most of the things that they said about him in this last 2 years was completely made up. Completely made up. So this whole idea that he's a bad teammate, bad leader, bad attitude, all that stuff, it is silly. I mean, you just, especially him who has a platform every Tuesday with Pat McAfee, if you just listen to him and you see what he thinks and what he talks about and how he approaches things. But then outside of that, you just listen to his teammates. Have you seen any teammates come out and talk about how horrible of a teammate he is? No. These people that play with Aaron love Aaron for the most part. So for people to be like, oh, he's with the Jets and it's so different, it's so silly to me. It is nothing but narratives. It's silly because at the end of the day, why would someone get back that much money? Same reason Tom Brady didn't take as much money as he could. Same reason that any player, Pat Mahomes, didn't take as much money as he could. Because they want to have money so that you can sign other pieces. Because they're smart enough to know it's not about getting as much money as I can. It's about keeping a competitive roster. And no knock to Herbert or anything. I don't know how those negotiations, I don't really know him like that. But him and his contract, Jalen and his contract, Jalen Hurts, Joe Burrow and his contract coming up, they could easily say, okay, that's a great deal. Me and the agent, great deal. All right, go to them, tell them, take $5 million off only if it goes to Austin Eckler. Justin Herbert could have did that. He didn't, and I'm not knocking him, but I'm just saying he could. And so Aaron Rodgers did that. But when people do that, people are like, what are you talking about? And I know it's a capitalist society, but we can't be that dumb. It's sports. It's a finite cap of money. You have to understand if he isn't getting paid that money, they have more money to spend on other people. It's that simple. It started to become rumors about screwing the Packers, trying to get ownership in the Jets later by doing a favor, trying to make it seem like he's a good guy, but he's not. Like, just dumb stuff. When at the end of the day, it only helps you as a quarterback to have a good team. As much as people want to love Mahomes, and I love Mahomes too, and as much as people want to love whoever it is, we have to acknowledge it is a ultimate team sport. This ain't basketball where 25-year-old LeBron can carry a team, but that doesn't happen. Everyone has to do their job, even when they're not on the field with you and they on the other side of the ball. They have to do their job. It only makes you better. So that's why he gave the money back. Like, again, this whole narrative that people created and want to maintain that Aaron's such a bad guy is silly. Like, oh, he's working out in the offseason now. And they parlay that into they had a bad passing year because he didn't work out with the rookies to build chemistry. I still hear it. Obviously, they did it a lot last year, but even now they still, he had a down year. Part of that's because he had rookies, but also that's his fault because he didn't build chemistry with them. Chemistry ain't built in a few weeks. Newsflash, Aaron Rodgers could have been with those rookies every day for months until camp, and they could have still had the same season. Chemistry ain't built like that. It takes time. Also, I don't know, maybe not having the best receiver in the league kind of, made it a difference. You mean to tell me if Devontae Adams was there and Aaron didn't spend time with any receiver and came back with those rookies, with Devontae Adams, he would have had a bad year? No. Because he knows Devontae, and Devontae is an amazing talent, and rookies are rookies. So it's just, that's when it's a narrative to me, when it's not even based on anything really logical. It's just a story people make up to make it fit into something entertaining, when that doesn't make any sense. And I'm not an Aaron Rodgers stan or anything, but it's just like people say some of the most easily disproved things, and it just gets accepted on sports media and people just run with it, even though it is easy to just show you that's not true. Now, again, I wanted to do this at first but it took me some time. So by this time, Aaron Rodgers already addressed it. But believe you me, had I did it the moment I heard it, I would have said the exact same thing he did because it is common sense. So there's that. Like, yes, he's in with the Jets. Obviously, he's trying to win and he's more locked in than with how the Packers ended. But at the end of the day, him giving back the money was just him trying to secure a good roster. And at this point, I believe some of the very quiet rumors that if this goes left in the first 5 weeks in Las Vegas, Devontae might want to parachute out, and they will need some money to get him. So, hey, I'm just saying. There's already 17 in the Jets, but, that's cool. All right, so last thing I'll get to. I feel like there's other stuff to talk about, but last thing I'll get to because this is going to touch on a couple things. So Justin Fields is getting a lot of talk for MVP. And matter of fact, I'll address that second. But on top of that, before that conversation was the whole conversation about him being higher than Trevor Lawrence on the top 100 player list. Now, a few things to say. Well, I'll say this first, actually, about the whole thing as far as him being above him. The players make this list. The players rank based off the previous season. Now, a lot of us was here when this first started. I remember it. Very confusing. We didn't know what we was talking about. But it became clear over the years. We are just talking about this past season. The players thought that Fields had a better season than Trevor Lawrence. Now, I don't have the numbers in front of me. Obviously, the Bears didn't win a lot. That's due to a lot of things. I don't have the numbers in front of me, but I do know Trevor Lawrence wasn't a monster. Trevor Lawrence had his fair share of struggles. That's kind of, yeah. And so we're not going to act like he was some MVP candidate. Because I'm sure people are going to be like, man, look at these numbers compared. Obviously, Justin Fields was doing something completely different. And what he did was more impressive to the players. That's it. That's all. Now, when people talk about Trevor Lawrence, this upcoming year, that's fine if you're projecting, but we're not talking about projection. They're just talking about the past season. So when people ask me, do I think it's crazy or whatever, how do I feel? Honestly, I think it's plausible. I mean, first of all, if enough players feel that way, that's how they feel. What am I supposed to say? But if you ask me personally, again, if you just basing it off last year, Trevor Lawrence wasn't some, transcendent talent. And Justin Fields made a lot of magic with what he had, which was very little. And I could see somebody being impressed by that. So that's all that is. Now, to the larger point, as I said, this list is by the players. And a lot of people in the media talk about how the players list shouldn't matter. Here's the thing. It does. Number one, the players said themselves all the time. This is the biggest honor they have. More than the All-Pro, more than a Pro Bowl, more than Defensive Player of the Year, whatever. Because they trust other players who are their colleagues, essentially. You're working in the same field I am. You know what it takes, and I respect their opinion. And some media will sit here and say, well, players are biased. They shouldn't vote, and they don't watch all games, all that. Now, the media is not wrong. I happen to agree. I've seen some wild things happen with players. Shoot, we seen Kevin Durant purposefully, outwardly skip over James Harden in the All-Star game draft because he was mad at him. Now, is Harden the same player he once was? No, but still, it was very blatant. He was in his feelings. Okay, that's how he conducted himself. So yes, players can absolutely be biased, especially in this day and age. But when you talk about the critique of do they watch film, or they don't watch the games, they're playing games and they don't watch all of it. Okay, so if Stephen A. or Skip or Shannon or Nick Wright or Colin Cowherd or anybody is sitting at home watching the games on a Sunday, is that much better than a player who only watches film for the game they're about to get ready for? Like, what are we talking about? And even the guys that break down film on these things, they do I think they're watching all the film of all the games? No. I think they're looking at highlights and then they're going to the film to break down what happened on that play. So, do I trust players who at least watch film to an extent more so than these media who never watch it? Yeah. But also on top of that, if you know me, I don't think either one of them are the ones that should be doing it. If it was me, I would say that it should be voted on by the coaches and the player personnel. And I think head coach, coordinator should get a vote that counts for one vote each. And I think the player personnel department, the pro player personnel, they should get votes that count for two. Because they're the ones that are watching the film. They're the ones that are tracking these people. They're the ones that's following the top players and how players are performing. So when you talk about, and when you critique the players for not watching and not knowing, I would critique the media for the same thing. So if it's to me, where there's any all-star game or list or anything, it should be coaches and the player personnel groups that are actually voting because they're the ones that are actually studying. That's my opinion. Now, let's get to the Justin Fields of it all. Justin Fields is receiving a crazy amount of bets on him for MVP. This is off the back of Dan Orlovsky mentioning that he thinks Justin Fields can have MVP type play. Now, you could read that, not watch the segment. You don't know what you're talking about, obviously. You could watch the segment and not know what you're talking about because I watched Stephen A. and Swagoo completely. It happened to be on when I was at the gym, so I watched this whole thing. They completely just did not understand what Dan Orlovsky was saying. And I completely agree with him. He said, again, and he literally said, I don't think Fields is going to be in the conversation for MVP, but you have MVP type play. So then once again, they're talking about, are you taking him over Mahomes or are you saying he's in this discussion? That is not the point. That's the same thing like this top 100. This is not a sit because this is the problem. People are usually talking about skill set, but then they always go to the numbers. So that's what they're talking about. Oh, you're going to put him in the level of Pat Mahomes, whatever. You're talking about skill set. We're not ranking skill set. We're not doing anything. We're purely talking about MVP type play. That means production. So one of my friends, Pern, told me today, you know, what Fields go throw for 4,000, run for 1,000. Again, the team could have one win all next season. If he has 4,000 yards passing, 1,000 yards rushing, touchdowns, whatever, that's MVP type play. That's elite type play. I don't care that we not winning. That's elite type play. And so that's what Orlovsky's saying, that he can have that type play. Now, usually when you have that type play from quarterback, you do win, obviously. But the point is, you can have players ball out and have a high level of play and doesn't mean that they're going to win or that they're going to be in the conversation for the award. So that when he says MVP type play, that doesn't mean, or MVP level play, that doesn't mean he's talking about he's going to win MVP or be in the conversation. He's just saying that he can get up to the level of how an MVP usually produces. Now, me, I hate the MVP award. I'm not going to get into that. But again, I agree with Dan on that part. In terms of people voting on Justin Fields to be MVP and all this hype and discussion, you know, it's interesting. I was a Justin Fields fan coming into the draft, even though that was a limited view for me. That draft, I didn't get to watch as much. But I was a fan when he was drafted. all those different things. And I've been talking about him for, a hot second. So with all that being said, in terms of Justin Fields and his what we're talking about looking towards the season, and even with the Trevor Lawrence thing and all that. Look, you know me. The way that it should be broken down is by skill set. That is the point. The skill set and what is surrounding you, because people like to throw out stats. They like to forget what other people are doing around them and all that. So last year, was I shocked by Justin Fields? Absolutely not. Everybody was going crazy. Justin Fields struggled to make plays because A, was transitioning to the NFL. It is a difference. B, he was consistently under pressure and he formed bad habits. And then when he took off, he's fast. He ran a 4.3. I expect him to be fast. He has some more dynamics and toughness to his running than I knew about because he didn't have to do that in college. But he's a great athlete. I wasn't shocked. He's got great balance. He's got great speed. He showed great vision and all that. So was not shocked by that and was not shocked by the passing production, especially mostly given because of the roster around him and the way they chose to play offense. So now we come to this year. You got DJ Moore, bona fide number one. Do I think he's the holy savior everybody talks about? No, but he's a bona fide number one, very legit receiver. Going to give you some top end reliability if he's healthy. Love that. We bring in Darnell Wright. I love him at right tackle. We bring in Nate Davis. I don't think he was that big of a deal as people made it. But obviously an upgrade because that allows us to put Tevin Jenkins at left guard, a spot where we struggled at. So now we fortify across the line. Braxton Jones, you would expect him to get better, and that's what we hope. And so you fortify the line pretty fast. And hopefully that is going to look nothing like it did last year. So now he's got more time. He's got more protection to be confident. He's got a bona fide number one that opens up Mooney and Claypool to work off the one-on-one coverage. And then there's a rookie Tyler Scott. I don't know much about him. Then look into him that people are talking about, whatever. If you're not DJ Moore, you can work more off the single coverage. Cole Kmet as well. I'm one of those people that are like, what? We gave up Dave Montgomery? I don't think anybody we got can do what he does. You might be able to put up yards, but that ain't the point. It's how he did it. So that is a little shaky to me. But the key to it, which I've said since the end of last season, what will Luke Getsy do with the offense? Because number one, Luke comes from a place in Green Bay where they shifted things a lot. So he's used to being versatile. Number two, he's a younger coordinator. And like I said, these younger coordinators are used to starting from scratch and building up pretty quickly. So what we did last year in the beginning looked completely different what we did the rest of the year after the bye because they started from the beginning and they adopted this Lamar Jackson type stuff. So we know they can scrap it and start over quickly. And we know that they probably don't want to do that Lamar Jackson thing. Even Lamar Jackson doesn't want to do that Lamar Jackson thing. So we know that, but what we don't know is what is the new one going to look like. And so that is going to be the biggest piece into determining what's the ceiling on what this year can be. He has accuracy. He has arm strength. He has the ability to make plays on the move and all that stuff. Now the question is going to be, can he make decisions? Can he make decisions in the pocket? Because despite what everybody says, and if it's me, I'm probably not ranking Justin Fields super high in the top 100. Despite all the excitement, he formed bad habits, as I said, which is why when you get into passing situations, he did not look great because he had bad habits. And I've said this is the exact story we had with Trubisky. People be, oh, this is the running quarterback. No, it's not that era. You only person you have is Lamar Jackson. Yes, he won the MVP. And guess what? About the next year, they figured it out. He ain't did nothing like that since. This is not the era of the running quarterback. You have quarterbacks that extend plays. Yes, this is not the era of the running quarterback. So what we did last year is not winning football. It is not conducive to being a productive elite quarterback. So he formed bad habits. Can he break out of those by this year? The good thing is he has years of Ohio State where he had good habits. And so now, is he going to revert back to that? That's the question that we got to ask. But ultimately, when you're talking about the high level of MVP, no matter how well things come together, I don't see that type of year for the Bears and Justin Fields. Mainly just for the fact I don't think we're going to win like that. But in terms of can he drastically improve, be 1,000-yard rusher, 4,000-yard passer, 30 touchdowns? Yeah, at the ceiling, I think he can. I'm not predicting that he will because there's questions that I need to be answered. But at his height, yeah, I think he could do that. He could have that type of play, but do I honestly think he could be MVP? No, that's not something I see. But you never know because it's not just us as the Bears, well, me as a Bears fan. It's about the other teams. It's which teams are going to transition and fall off and not really compete the way they're supposed to, and which teams are going to have injury problems. Those are the two things that always change the season. So that's my thoughts on Justin Fields and all that talk. So that's it for me. Go down in the comment section. Let me know what you think. Share it around. Get the conversation started. Thumbs up, subscribe, and thank you for listening.